As I'm checking out at a self-checkout, a clearly homeless man with a bunch of junk food stands at the checkout behind me. A rainbow of language erupts from him, and the security guard walks up. Excuse me, sir. What's wrong? I can't buy the red because the orange machine won't yellow my green card. I can't blue pay for this and my indigo laundry. I'm stealing this violet. The security card basically just says, but please don't. And the homeless dude walks out with his food. I watch him walk out as the security guard just stands there. I look back at the $20 of food I'm purchasing, hesitate for a moment, and then pay with card. Kind of weird there's legit no consequences for stealing for a grocery store, right? Like, kind of makes you wonder why they hired the security guard in the first place. Anyway, so this time I'm going to try something new. Basically, the situation is thus. I have voice typing, which is, in fact, easier than real typing. Therefore, I'm going to try and use voice typing to write the majority of this email and then come back through, which is what I'm doing right now, and edit it so it actually says what I want it to. Because, see, my conversational style of writing left emails is basically just me talking anyway, so why wouldn't I just click the voice button and have my computer type while I talk? I don't know. It sounds like a pretty big brain move to me, so we're going to give it a shot. I'm also pragmatically lazy, so there's that too. After finishing my last live email, I just played Minecraft with the rest of the group because we have our weekly Minecraft event thing, so it was good. However, we gave Katie God powers, aka creative mode, and I'm not sure how I feel about that, because historically, whenever we give Katie power, she uses that power against me. Thus, I'm inherently wary of any time we give Katie power. Game or no. Okay, you know what? Control Z. I don't think I can afford to write XD anymore, because actually every time I write it, Jake says XD when he narrates it, and it's like scraping nails across the chalkboard of my soul. I don't know. Maybe that's how everyone else reads it in their brain, but if so, I'm deeply sorry because it's actually just painful to hear. You know what? I'm going to try and stop, if for no other reason than my own sanity. Anyway, after bestowing upon Katie power beyond reckoning, I watched a bit of anime and then went to sleep. I started next day reading this pamphlet. Okay, back up. There's this guy, or at least it was this guy at Ratchet Christie, and he's basically a mendicant. I mean, it's not like he doesn't own any possessions, but he doesn't have like a car or a house or anything more than like what he can fit in his person on his bicycle. So interesting dude to be sure. So yeah, this guy wrote a pamphlet, and here, I have some pictures. Boop. And it's all handwritten and stuff, and it's about why he thinks there are good reasons to believe in Christianity. Now, it wasn't bad per se. It's just like the degree of knowledge I had about a year ago, so it hurt my soul a little bit. But it's understandable, you know. Kind of like how a baby duckling hurts your soul when it tries to keep up with his mother. Like you see it speed waddling, but it's just not fast enough, and so it keeps falling behind. And like you kind of want to help it, but you also kind of find its failure amusing. So yeah, this guy was like a speed waddling duckling. Anyway, I spent a bit of time reading through his pamphlet and critiquing it. After like an hour, I revised critiquing... I realized critiquing this whole thing was actually going to take so much time and just be more efficient to talk it through with him, so I stopped. Anyway, it wasn't bad reasoning per se, it just wasn't nuanced. So yeah, I didn't do that, and then I went to Neo's house, wherein we did things. I think we started off the afternoon playing Frisbee, because it was such a nice day. However, the trouble is that the friend group is remarkably non-athletic. Well, okay, maybe not remarkably. I don't know. Maybe they're just below average. But regardless, my athleticism is high by comparison. In that group, I'm like the jock, which is great, because I feel cool. So yeah, we did outdoor things, and I destroyed. After that, we did a lot of Smash Bros. And Halo, because those are fun games, and did so into the night. Once I got home, I went on a run, and then I watched some JK Studios, because Studio C, if you didn't know, kind of died, and they reincarnated themselves Phoenix style and are now JK Studios. So yeah, watched them a little bit, and then went to bed. The next day, I worked as per usual. Nothing really abnormal happens at work, which I suppose is a good thing, but as a result, I have really nothing to say about it. Just, you know, me laboring, grinding piece of metal after piece of metal, learning some things. Yep. After work, I had school, which was chemistry class, and I did homework for actually ages, which is big sad. Yep, I did that, and then after that, I went and did a squad meetup. However, we went to go play volleyball at the park, and there was this gaggle of people who were like, hey, and we were like, okay. Then Karina came late, and we just chucked her on the other team, because they were all female, and she's female, and that's all the reason you need. So yeah, we all played volleyball till it was dark, and the other group disbanded. We tried to play a tiny game amongst ourselves in the dark, but it was mostly a fail, because, well, it was dark. So yeah, we came, we saw, we got conquered, and then we went to Sonic and ate food. After that, we went back to Joe's house and played Munchkins, which is a decent game, but I lost horribly, so I'm kind of salty. I really just wanted to make Caleb and Joe, but mostly Caleb, not win. Upon realizing I had no chance of doing so, though, I instead buffed Karina at the very end, and even then I lost. However, it was close, though. Thus, in the end, I doubly lost, both directly and vicariously. It was a big sad, not gonna lie. After that, I showed everybody, well, not everybody, the squad, Katie's life update email survey she wrote. So basically what happened was Katie, who vehemently hates these life update emails, was like, I vehemently hate these life update emails. And I was like, well, I think you're in the minority. And she was like, I doubt it. And so to adjudicate between our two claims and figure out if I've been wasting my life for the past, 3 years, she composed a survey. But see, it was a doc, so a bunch of the questions on it, with a bunch of questions on it. And I was like, no one wants to read a doc and type things, which is vexingly true. So basically, I presented to the squad and was like, here's Katie's survey. Can we make it into an actual survey? And the squad was like, we're bored enough to say yes. Thus, with mostly Caleb doing everything, we spent the rest of the night doing that and rewarding some of her strange words. So it was good and kind of fun at the time. The activity then concluded the day. I then worked and listened to the actually smart dude talk about his problems with divine simplicity. I was like, oh, shoot, you're wise. And so I have to deal with that now, which is great. Just great. So I did that, then skipped my physics class, which I was supposed to go to because I had a college application, but I had college application stuff, which was more urgent. See, there's this free application day, which is really nice because it means I don't have to pay $150. And I'm like, I consent to your terms. However, one of the terms is you have to complete and submit your college application letter within a 3-day time frame, which would have been easy until I realized I hadn't asked any of my teachers for recommendation letters. Thus, I had to scramble and beg for recommendation letters, which were composed at a rapid pace. And thankfully, I was successful and got my application submitted. So basically, I did college applications the whole time, and that I would have been doing physics, and after that, my brain was very dead. Now, C, first of all, meaning it. Oh, me. Okay. Now, see, first of all, it, meaning my brain, had been mucho used by trying to understand the smart to talk about simplicity, which I did, but it took a lot of brain power. And then it was used the whole rest of the day doing college applications, which is still at least 10% intensive. And then I finally get to Ratchet Christie, where it's used even more. Yeah, overall, very brain-intensive day. So I tried to fight Alan with little of success due to the aforementioned brain death. But basically, we came to the conclusion that free will of the significant libertarian sort is indeed possible. Perhaps that's just a conclusion that made sense to my tired brain and it won't hold up in the long run. But given the causal principles advanced by the ancients and, that they're the only ones that are really out there, which I really have no clue if that's the case, then Alan was successful in arguing that they did not preclude libertarian freedom. So yeah, that's where we're at. Now, mind you, I don't think free will exists, at least not yet, but I do now think it's possible instead of being impossible. Now, free will may turn out to be true. Who knows? If it is, I'd be a happy lad. After that, Joe and I had a conversation on the way home, which was decent, and then I slept. The next day I didn't have work, which was nice, but I'll be honest, I don't remember the cause of such exclusion from duty, but it happened. However, I did have a bunch of homework that I didn't finish until like 9 at night. So that was more than my desired daily dosage of homework. Thus, throughout the night, I played Halo Kill because I was like, I need to murder some things to unwind. And it was a good time. The next day, I got myself juiced, which is my new favorite means of describing the plasma donating process because, frankly, I'm literally being juiced. My juices are removed from me. So it makes sense. Anyway, I got juiced and did a bunch of waiting because the juicing line was super long. I barely made it out in time for my physics lab, which was always a big sketch because you can't be like mid-donation. Okay, I misjudged how long this would take. I need to leave now. So yeah, it worked out, but it was definitely down to the wire. I then made it to lab on time, surfed through that, and then I did homework till everyone, namely Joe, Caleb, and I got together and played Brawlhalla, which was fun. The following day, I had more work, more school. I left class early, did some homework once I got home before driving up to Horseshoe and engaging in a decently long stint of prayer, which I'll be honest, could have gone better. However, after that, I did get to play some games with the gang, so that was at least redeeming. Thursday, I proceeded to get juiced before I spent some time watching anime with Grace, which was a good time to hang out with her. I then did Ratchet Christie Minecraft, aka played Minecraft with the Ratchet Christie core group, and that was fun. And it was good to catch up with Katie. Plus, it's a win-win, because I also get to hang out with Liam simultaneously. Plus, it's Minecraft, so it's a pretty good game. After that, Morgan was still around, so me, Morgan, and Grace decided to hang out at Horsetooth and talk. Ben would have joined, but he left for California for the last wedding and he decided to stay in California doing things. He stayed with our cousins for a bit, and then it's this creator's house, which sounded pretty sketch. And then back at the cousins. And yeah, anyway, he did a lot, so feel free to catch him up or talk to him if you're interested. The point is, Ben was gone, so it was just me, Grace, and Morgan. So yeah, we drove to Horsetooth and just had a lengthy talk about stuff, and it was decent. And I'm pretty sure I was privy to 10% of some girl talk, or at least what it might sound like. And 10% was definitely an overdose. Like, I could have dealt with 1, maybe 2, but 10? Yeah, no thanks. Yeah, it was really interesting and really boring at different points of the conversation. So once we finished that, I drove us home and then watched a bit of anime before going to sleep. The next day, I went to Southgate after a bazillion years of break, and then just my luck, guess who's there? No one! Ha! So you thought I would say, like, Bob the Ancient Suited One, but no, the correct answer is no one. It was super sad, because that day everyone either ditched church or had just been gone for some reason or another. And I was the only person that cared, and so I was the only person there that I cared about. Okay, maybe Josh and possibly Katie. And I guess Joe's parents. Okay, so I guess it depends on how far we're setting the bar above minimum amount of caring I'm supposed to give to, someone because they're a human. Because depending upon that metric, certain people may or may not matter. Anyway, it was a bit of a big sad. But I stuck around through the service, and yeah, I left it from there and decided to call up Caleb and hang out at his place with a very brief amount of time before Jake and Joe arrived to travel on our pre-planned trip to Estes. So I played a tiny bit of Brawlhalla, which we don't need to note the outcome of that publicly, before I went back to Southgate and carpooled with Joe, Jake, and Caleb up to Estes. See, I was supposed to have D&D around this time, but Jake was like, hey, you guys want to go to estes after church? And given Jake's general unavailability, I couldn't say no. So yeah, the experience was definitely worthwhile. I haven't talked to Jake in a long time. It was good to catch up. Plus, I tried to stoop to small talk, shivers and disgust. And I think I at least did a tolerable job. Overall, definitely worth a D&D sacrifice. Once we drove back, which is a surprisingly hard task for Caleb, might I add, let's just say he had an impressively hard time getting us where we needed to go. I went to play D&D with the Neo and the gang. We're getting close to the end of the campaign, so that's pretty exciting. At this point, our characters are so overpowered, we basically just nuke all our enemies. My wizard has so many high-level spell slots, it's ridiculous. And he also has like 2 giant anti-meat golems, which he controls, which is also fantastic. Man, we've been playing this campaign for like a year and a half or something. I don't know, but it's really long, and it's also been quite good. Definitely props to Neo. Anyway, I love playing Bailey's. He's like my nerdiness level on steroids, so it's pretty fantastic. So anyway, we did that and then played some games afterward, which was mildly interesting. Once I got home, I read a little of my canon book, which we're still inching through, and then went on a run, which was a nice change of pace. Get it? Change of pace? I'm sorry, I'll stop. The next day, I had a standard work school combo with a bit of extra sauce. I did homework and a lot of it. And then we, meaning the squad, did get to play some volleyball together because we're like, we really didn't do it well last time. And so the squad, squatted up, and we played volleyball at the Myers house, which was fun. Also, it wasn't just the squad. Ben, Seth, and Sam played. However, after that, the squad went to Alley Cat and talked, and it was kind of the first time we all tried to have some deep conversations as a squad. I mean, we didn't really get that deep, and it was definitely partially by design, as we, need to get to know each other. Design as we needed to know each other more before our deepest, darkest secrets were revealed. But at the very least, I enjoyed it mildly, and we give it a 7, maybe a 6 on the good time scale. So yeah, we did that, and it's like then, and then it was like, well, time for sleeping, so we did that. The next day, I had work, and then me and Joe had a conversation about how it is the case that natural family planning, hereafter referred to as NFP, because that's what all the smart people do, works while contraceptives don't, morally speaking, at least within the Thomistic framework. After thinking about it, I think I figured out how and why they're distinct. I would explain it, but it wouldn't make any sense without Thomistic metaphysics background, so I'll spare you the confusion. But, as always, even though no one ever takes me up on it, feel free to hit me up with an email. Anyway, after that conversation, I deemed myself mujo smart. Thereafter, I did some school in the standard manner, and after that, I cashed in on the Wendy's Alan owed me. How did Alan come to owe me Wendy's, you might ask? Well, you see, we were talking on Ratchet Christie Minecraft server about prayer, and Alan was like, I bet you can't find one saint that thinks prayer is non-propositional, to which I was like, bet! And then I proceeded to find exactly one saint who said, though, if you look at the context, she was technically like, this only applies if you were, first played propositionally for like 24 hours. But technically, she said that prayer can be non-propositional. So I won on a technicality, which means I now have $20 worth of Wendy's. I can cash at will. So that's a pretty sweet deal. So even though that's not a victory in any sense but a technical one, it's still a total victory. Anyway, that is how I was able to cash into my Wendy's, which resulted in Alan and I meeting a bit early and having a conversation. After we concluded our meal, we went over to Ratio and continued that conversation on whiteboards. And then we continued to continue it at Alley Cat. So all in all, it was a certainly elongated conversation, but let's be honest, our conversations are like that. The following morning, I did more work, more school, and then more homework, which was all very death. Then I went out and prayed in my car for a while before going home and sleeping. The next day, I got juiced and then did a physics lab, of which here is a picture. Boop. The thing about physics labs is it isn't like they're hard in themselves. Okay, except for the one we did recently. It was an optics lab, and oh my gosh, it murdered me. So hard to do. So the problem is, I'm really carrying the team with my physics lab because one person, Omar, hardly speaks English, so he can't really write anything in English. I mean, he can, but it's all really unnatural sounding. So naturally, we don't have him do the writing parts of the lab. He can do math sometimes, but it's hard to explain things to him, so I just do it myself, and usually that's what I end up doing. The result is he's kind of a freeloader, though not because he's trying to be a freeloader, but for the aforementioned reasons. And then there's Malia, the female in the picture above. She puts in minimal effort about 93% of the time. She hasn't been paying attention in class because she figures she needs to retake the class anyway, once she leaves community college and goes to real college, which isn't trash reasoning, if it weren't for the fact that my success is inseparably tied up with hers. Thus, as a result of the aforementioned facts, I'm like the whole brains and most of the brawn of the operation. And I'll be honest, it gets tiresome being a one-man army. And kind of hard because sometimes I don't know all the secrets of the universe, and then if I'm confused, then basically we're all screwed. So it would be nice to have another smart person on the team. Okay, well, Malia is occasionally smart. It's rare, but she also really tries. So credit where credit's due. Anyway, as a result, physics labs are kind of death, but I did get it done. Thereafter, I did homework and went over to Caleb's house where we played Minecraft, and Jezra, the leopard-suited man, joined us. Remember way back how I compared Mark of the Science Hippies to a guy in a leopard shirt? Well, you see, Jezra actually does that. Like at Jake's wedding, he wore a spoonkin hat, And it was the most ridiculous shirt that I've ever seen. But you know what? That caused me to remember him. So who knows? Maybe I should start trying to be fashionably atrocious. Okay. Tangent to comment on a tangent. So the way I'm writing this life of email is like a week or so ago, and I typed a giant block of text, and now I'm going through and edit it, right? Well, as I edit, I often decide to engage in standard life of email writing procedure and just write what comes to mind as it comes to mind. So I'm doing as much. And I get to Jezra, and as soon as I read his name, I write this whole mental tangent about how he goes and dresses really weird, and I look down, and it turns out that last week my mind took the exact same path. Like, it's ridiculous how similar two paragraphs are before me. As a result, I'm forced to conclude either A, my thoughts are maximally unoriginal and I'm really just a complicated AI spitting out a response when mentally stimulated in a certain way, or B, Jezra's clothing choice so seared itself into my consciousness that I'll never be free of it and will plague my nightmares. At this point, I'm personally leaning toward the latter. Anyway, Jezra joined us in some Minecraft and we talked a bit. It turns out he likes isekai anime, which is my genre of choice, and he has actually watched some of the obscure isekai I had watched, so that was kind of cool. Though, mind you, it wasn't actually reassuring. See, when someone like Alan or even Joe says, oh yeah, I've watched My Hero Academia, I'm really like, oh good, I guess I'm not as weird as I thought. But when Jezra's like, oh yeah, Girls Oon Panzer, that was great, it kind of confirms I am as weird as I think I am. Nevertheless, it was cool that he, accompanied me in my weirder anime watches. Also, the other thing we talked about is he's apparently trying to write a book, of which he proceeded to describe the plot. And now I have one more thing I want to say concerning that. First, as a person whose creative writing was his life from the ages of 16 to 17, I have a limited respect for anyone who has yet to finish a book. Like, don't get me wrong, I know a lot of people with some really cool story ideas, but if you never get on digital paper, then obviously it doesn't amount to anything. So I'm kind of like, I don't respect you as a writer unless you demonstrate you can actually write and not just dream of a novel. Hence, at the outset, Jezra not having completed that goal made me wary. Second, writing is super hard, and this is coming from the person who's completed 2 novels, which he's put his heart and soul into, and it still turned out to be trash. Esoteric Destiny has an average rating of 4 on a solid and a solid 2 on the Liam scale, the ultimate scale of creative writing, mind you. And I'm not even salty, because they're right. So even when someone does pass the I'm not just a dreamer test, I'm still like, okay, but you have to actually be good to be professional, and the odds are like 91 to 1 that you're just a hobbyist like me, who objectively sucks, but is encouraged by the uncultured people around you who can't tell the difference between Tolkien and, well, you. Third, even if you are a good writer and you can instantiate your vision, you should still never give a book summary. Like, it just can't capture what makes a good work of fiction good. So yeah, all in all, Jezra failed all 3 of my legit creative writer tests, and thus I mostly died inside as he regaled his dream novel's plot. But hey, at least Caleb seemed genuinely interested. Regardless, it was a good time, and I'm finally to the point in Minecraft where I might get to the end. Like, the end of Minecraft, that is. See, Caleb and Joe have been to the end and back like 7 times, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should try and beat the game instead of just building a freakily huge chunk of obsidian. So we'll see if that happens, or not. Yep. Did that. The following day, I had more work and then more chemistry, and then I did more homework, and then I played soccer because it was Friday, and it's fun. That soccer is always fun. And then I hung out with Dad, which is a good thing. Look at me fulfilling my familial duties. We ate some McDonald's, and then played a bunch of ping pong, in which Dad unfortunately beat me pretty soundly, which was a big sad. I mean, I did have some comebacks, but I didn't overall win. So yeah, that was mucho unfortunate, and there was this guy that randomly joined at the end. He was pretty trash, so we beat up on him, but in a nice way. After that, Grace and I visited the dollar store and dropped like $10 on candy, and gosh, we got so much candy. Here's a picture of us enshrining our healthy habits. And so we ate and watched anime, developing healthy habits of both body and mind. The next day, I got juiced again. At this point, I'm being pretty close to finishing all my new donor plans, hence meaning the juicing will only pay me about half as much, which is big sad. I went shopping with the squad because Sydney made a literal requirement that I have a costume, so I was kind of forced to. Of course, she told me this when I had a party that was like literally the next day. So, out of options, I proceeded to call up the squad, and Karina particularly, and the squad more generally. I was like, hey, Karina, you could sew, right? You're artsy, right? You want me to make a costume, right? And she was like, actually, yes, I would like to make you a costume, which was actually great. And it turns out having artsy friends is useful. Quick tangent. So this whole costume making event brought me to a verdict, namely that I value art when I value art. I know. Maximally insightful. So basically what I mean by that is art is not objectively valuable, but it's valuable subjectively, and therefore I value it subjectively when it matters to me subjectively. Which of course is obviously true. But see, what this means is I might stop dissing art. Well, unless I don't value it subjectively, which is almost always. Okay, I probably won't change my behavior at all. But regardless, I'm glad Karina can art, because frankly, it was nice to have a cool costume. Also, see this costume? It's actually really cool. Boop. There's some pictures. I mean, check that out. Isn't that super awesome? art isn't entirely useless skill set because it always looks epic. Anyway, I helped cut stuff while she sewed and did brain things, so yeah, that was good. We all went and played some volleyball, which was big fun. Once I got home, I watched The Man with Grace, and we both enjoyed it. After that, I worked on getting a scholarship because I didn't want to be in debt as a person. I didn't want to be an in-debt person as well as a poor person. The day after that, I cleaned my car and went to Neo and Sydney's for the aforementioned Halloween party, of which here are 2 pictures. Boop. Boop. There wasn't many of us that showed up, but it was still a good time. We all played Smash Bros. For a while, and then the squad and I'm sorry, I forgot the squad is now trademarked. The group, but the group sounds so much lamer. I'm sorry, Neo friend group, you're just going to be the group. Anyway, the group and I walked around campus while costumed. It was quite cold. Upon driving back, people talked about some stuff, and I mostly listened since everyone but me had at least consumed some alcohol, and it was definitely an interesting conversation. The following morning, I went to work, and nothing unusual happened. Then I went to school, and something unusual did happen. After chem class, one of my classmates, who turns out to be a Christian, was like, "Hey, I see your custom shirts to indicate that you have some sort of faith. Are you a Christian?" And I was like, "Yep." So he was like, "So, what do you think of the problem of evil?" And I was like, grinning maniacally, "You have no idea what you've unleashed." And then I proceeded to go on this long rant about these different theodicies and defenses, only to later find out that his sister just died. So in hindsight, I realized my methodology could have been a slight tweak. Could have used a slight tweak wherein I first inserted someone's emotionally bleeding out before you going on a philosophical rant where I educate their brain. So yeah, I horribly responded to my classmates' emotional trauma, and that was a mistake. Good times. After that, I did homework, finished the anime I was watching with Grace, and then I engaged in Minecraft with the Standing Rash Christian people, which was fun. Liam and Katie and I had a battle, and I won because I'm better. After that, I played some Minecraft and Brawlhalla with Joe and Caleb, and that was fun too, except I lost because I'm worse. The next day, I was like, "Hey, boss, I would like to leave in 3 weeks to go on a family vacation to Texas." And my boss was like, "No," which is not usually the response you want to hear. So I said, "But my parents have already booked the tickets and I really need to go." To which he responded, "Well, then maybe you shouldn't come back." So that was a lovely experience. Turns out I didn't get fired and he let me go on the vacation, but very begrudgingly. The whole experience was big sketch, but it worked out. After that experience, I got back to work and completed work. I then did the other species of work, homework, before engaging in school, during which my laptop got updated to Windows 11, which was inspiring this mode of writing because Windows 11 is very fancy. It has a very good voice typing program, and surprisingly got a lot right. I then went to Ratchet Christie, where Alan and I tried to fix what I'm calling the atom bomb of simplicity. Here's a taste of our thought process. Boop. It wasn't super successful, not going to lie. I mostly was like, "Here's the problem. Now here's a potential solution." But Alan was like, "No." So hopefully he'll come up with a big smart sometime soon. Also, look at him being a swaggery intellectual. Also, speaking of swagger, I have to throw this image of Caleb in here. Look at that man. Oh, the swagger. So yeah, as of now, the atom bomb is diffusible. So my new strategy is to try and chuck it into... Oh, it's indiffusible. So now my new strategy is to try and chuck into a space where I don't have to deal with it. So I'm basically like, let's just not accept simplicity instead of being like, how do we fix simplicity? Because it's a lot easier to distance yourself from your problems than to fix them. However, I'm not even sure I can distance myself from simplicity, so we'll see if that ends up happening. Anyway, after that, we went to a beer place where everyone got drinks except me because I'm underage. And it was an interesting conversation. I think Alan and Liam and I convinced Noah to watch Fate Unlimited Blade Works, so that was interesting. Hopefully he actually does it, and the plague of anime can spread further. After that, I went back to work. I did not get fired, as aforementioned, and then I did the chem lab of death, in which I did not actually die, but I just died in spirit. I then did homework for a long time, as is the usual practice on Mondays, and then Caleb, me played Halo into the night. Then, finally, oh my gosh, finally, we finished the Halo 1 campaign. Man, we've been working through that campaign for so long, but I mean, it's because we play on legendary difficulty, aka the hardest possible difficulty. So that explains why it took us so long, but still, we finally finished it, and I was happy. Thursday, I got juice once more, and was late for class because the juicing took forever. Apparently on Thursdays, it just takes ages. It's ridiculous how long it takes to get through the line. Anyway, I did a really painful lab, the optics lab aforementioned, and it was probably the worst lab so far. You're supposed to put your eye to this particular position so you can see the virtual distance of an image, and it was so hard to do. I still don't know how people are supposed to do that consistently. So yeah, lab of death, and then I got home and had New Zealand call with William and Mark, which was good to catch up with them. I might have turned it into a partial debate about the eternal conscious torment view of hell, but I enjoyed it and it was interesting. I came up with this really interesting argument against the view, and they didn't really have a rebuttal, so it was cool to feel that argument for the first time as well. Anyway, we caught up and talked a little bit about life, and then we talked about how unlikely it is I actually get to New Zealand. Okay, so another tangent, but this needs to be addressed. I think, as things stand, me and Ben can't come to New Zealand this semester. So, in the summer or winter. From what I've heard, New Zealand isn't opening its borders to non-New Zealand citizens until April 30th, 2022. At least that's their plan. And I leave for my virtual retreat May 17th, so that just isn't enough time. So yeah, unless things change, me and Ben literally can't enter the country, well, legally, this semester. So yeah, it's a big sad, and the borders are closed, and everyone is COVID terrified. Yep, a sucky situation. So after finding out that depressing news, I then did homework for quite a few hours, and then me and Joe watched My Hero Academia, which we haven't done in actually so long, and so we need to finish that. Afterwards, more work, more school, and then a bit of homework before doing a bunch of college stuff because I'm trying to, apply to all the colleges. So far, I've got CSU and South Dakota Mines in the bag. I've gone through the applications for all the South Dakota Mines stuff, but I still need to do CSU scholarships. So yeah, after doing scholarship stuff, I then went and watched The Eternals with Michael. It was meh. At this point, live action movies are entertaining, but not interesting for me. Like, if I want to watch something interesting, I watch an anime. Okay, I mean, that's not always true. There are a few movies you're like, I'm actually super intrigued, but animes are intriguing often. So that's why I'm not super down for movies. But I was willing to do it to hang out with Michael. Also, our seats were stolen, so we ended up stealing someone else's seats and took part in the chain reaction of evil. Whoever started this is well learned in the ways of the devil. Oh well, after the movie, I went to sleep. The next day, I woke up and I flew to California because it was Jonathan's wedding. Thus, my whole family was going to California, so I joined them. And man, I was hopping on the plane, and I realized it's been a long time since I last flew. I think like 3 years. Even so, it felt like yesterday because after all the flying I've done, I'm super used to the process. Also, here's some pictures from the flight. Pictures. Look at our fancy Colorado mountains. We landed in California, and then in California, we got this tiny rental car. Oh my gosh, it was so small. So we listened to this high-pitched anime music, which was surprisingly fitting the whole drive to the hotel. Here's a picture Ben took. Boop. Upon reaching the sketch hotel, we all hung out and talked, which was an interesting extended family experience. Here's some pictures of that oversized table. Boop. After that, me and Ben drove around some and went to King Soopers to get some food. Either during this trip or the trip to King Soopers where we took Sam, we had this great experience with a homeless dude stealing stuff from the supermarket. I described that in the intro. It was kind of hilarious in all honesty. So yep, got to witness that. After that, we hung out with Sam Treat, the cousin of the legend, and we went out of this pier, but Dad got super nervous and upset because he thought it was a super sketchy part of town, so we had to come back shortly after. And didn't really get to hang or talk. But we did find this cool lamp that was like in a tree, and Ben got a picture of it, so check it out. So yeah, we sat up there for a few minutes, and then we walked back and slept, or at least attempted to sleep. I did not sleep well, because hotel beds suck. The next day was the wedding, which was mostly boring, not gonna lie. I was recruited to be part of the food preparation, a huge mistake, which Jonathan would have been aware of if he knew my cooking skills. But those Cooking with Karina classes paid off, and I did my job adequately. In between the ceremony and the preparation, Ben, Sam, and I got to walk around the neighborhood, which was kind of cool since the venue was a nice neighborhood. There was a bunch of dancing, which I didn't do because it's dancing, but I have a picture of Jonathan and Laurel, so here you go. Boop. So yeah, we just kind of sat around a lot, and then we left. Ben, who'd been in California for a month, began his drive home with Grandpa, and then me and the rest of the fam spent another night at the hotel before we too began our trek home. Except Oz was via airplane. It was certainly a short trip, just there for the wedding and then back, but it was good to see everyone again. We got home at like noon or something, and I really wanted to sleep, but I rather went to chem class because I knew if I slept now, then I would wake up at like 10 at night, and then I'd have to go through the whole sleep-deprived process all over again. So I decided to stay awake and be a responsible human being. I did a bunch of homework after that because after missing the weekend, it piled up, and then everyone came over to our house for Brawlhalla because they wanted to do that. More like they invited themselves over. I joined in somewhat reluctantly because I was tired. However, Joe let, see, I'm not sure let is the right word, but we'll go with it, me drink some of his Monster, which was already half drunk. He never actually explained how it was half drunk or how long ago such occurred, but nevertheless, I did drink it because I was super sleep deprived, and a mysterious molding Monster is much better than no Monster. So we're going to assume it was half empty due to normal, non-suspect reasons. So yeah, I kicked people out early and got a decent amount of sleep. The next day, I did work and went to physics class. Also, my phone had begun to exhibit symptoms of impending death, so I started looking for a new one. I then attended Ratchet Christie, which was bueno. We discussed many things. I tried to kill the need for simplicity, but Alan fought back for its necessity, and basically that's how it went. I then brought Alan, Liam, and Joe back to my house to engage in some anime guessing. Ben joined us as well. Oh, and then Alan pulled up his really funny video from this old anime and made everyone absolutely crack up. I found it only mildly amusing, but everyone else was dying on the floor laughing. So yeah, we did that until the night, and then I rose the next day, did work, then I did a chem lab, and then I did homework for like 6 hours, which is painful. It's painful, man. I then played Halo with Caleb for like 4 hours, so that was less painful. The next day I got juiced once more and barely made it to front range on time for my big physics test because of the aforementioned super long time for plasma donation, but then I forgot my note card and calculator, so I had to go all the way back home, and I ended up being there like 30 minutes late, which was maximally big oof. However, I did succeed in finishing the test on time, so there wasn't any serious repercussions in the end, and once I got home, I did homework until like 10:30. The following day, I went to work, I went to school, and then I did homework as per usual. But after that, we then did an impromptu birthday party for our Liam/Alan at 11 laser tag, and that was pretty fun. I did get the best score consistently, so, Proud brag. And then we all played Minecraft Dungeon Crawler arcade game, and it was actually super fun. Definitely doing that again. We then went all to Buffalo Wild Wings and ate ridiculously overpriced mac and cheese. But yeah, overall good time, and I'm glad I'm friends with those guys. I came home to find Joe and Caleb crashing in my basement, so we played a bit of a simple old video game called Tank Trouble, and everyone left around 2 in the morning. And then I slept for like 12 hours, because I can. I then woke up and took my chemistry test of death before doing the voice typing for this live demo. And then I may or may not have played Minecraft for a copious amount of time. I then did a bit more Minecraft the next morning. Okay, look at this castle I'm building in the Ratchet Christie survival world. You can only 10% see why I'm addicted. Oh, you can only see I'm 10%. You can see why I'm only 10% addicted. I then played D&D with the group, did dishes, I played some Bang, and then I rounded out the night with some Smash Bros, as is our custom. The next day, something mildly interesting happened at work. Namely, I began to clean out the water jet. It went well. But I didn't get it done in one fell swoop, as is my usual practice, as I only had around an hour and 30 minutes that day to work on it. But honestly, I think that is way better, because it gives your arms a chance to, catch a break the next day before going back at it. So yeah, anyway, I did that, went to game class, did homework, and then went over to Caleb's house where Joe, Noah, Caleb and I all played Hero Escape, and it was a pretty cool game. Kind of like a tabletop D&D without the roleplay and with action figures. Definitely something I could see myself getting into if it wasn't so expensive. But yeah, I didn't win, and it lasted pretty long, and I did pretty well for the first time, but Noah took the gold. And then, of course, salty from his loss, Joe demanded we play Brawlhalla, where he eased his spirits by pummeling all of us into the ground. The next day at work, I finished cleaning out the water jet, spent a bit of time vacuuming my room and basement before heading off to physics class. I then had a long meal with an anime to go with it. Maximal responsible use of time. Before going out to Ratchet Christie, where I tried to fix the atom bomb simplicity and may have made some progress. We'll see. The following morning I had work. I was pretty tired. I did my chem lab, which was alright, before doing homework, and then ending that day uneventfully. I then proceeded to sleep for 11 hours, which was lovely, and after that I got juiced before doing homework till it was time for physics class. After that I did more homework, played a bit of Minecraft, watched Mega Man with the Family, which I've got to say is a really well done movie, and then hit the sack. The next morning marked the beginning of the monumental Thanksgiving trip to Texas. See, the Macy's, the same family friends you might remember that invited us to spend time in their new beach house in Texas, and of course we couldn't turn them down. So, hence, Texas. The plane ride went smoothly, a bit boring, because of course I did, so. However, I did buy this immune system book that I started reading. See, there's this guy that helps develop this YouTube channel called Kurzakot. Don't ask me how to pronounce that. And they basically just read peer-reviewed papers and turn them into informative videos. So it turns out the guy running this YouTube channel wrote a book about the immune system, and of course they advertised it, so I was like, what the heck? And I bought it. Well, it's actually really good. Super simple and easy to read, but also super informative. And now I know a ton about the immune system. Highly recommend. So yeah, I started reading that and then read through the book intermittently throughout the trip. Once we got there, it was a decently long drive to the beach house, but we made it intact. However, meat started tasting weird, and not in a good way. So I don't know what's up with that. Once there, we did a lot of things. I don't remember the order, so I'll just say the important stuff as it comes to mind. Foremost, Ben and I had a really good conversation while walking on the beach. It was basically the instantiation of our bi-yearly deep talk, and it was really good. I also had a great conversation with Amelia, so that was also very much worth it. We rode around a golf cart at night and pumped music. Ben and I raced the golf cart and lost, understandably, but I did beat Ben, just barely. We chilled on the rooftop patio for quite a bit, and the first night Ben and I tried to sleep up there, but then we won't go inside in the middle of the night because it was really hot and humid. We also played a lot of a card game called Unstable Unicorns, which was legendary, and went swimming in the ocean. And Ben beat me in juggling a soccer ball, but it was close. We watched some videos, introduced the Macy's to anime, witnessed the parents get tipsy, and then, yeah, just all that kind of fun vacation stuff. It was a good time. A well-needed break. Once we flew back, I was tired and had a little brain power. I played some Minecraft and then did some frisbee golf with Joe, Caleb, and Ben. After that, which I won the frisbee golf, might I add, we played some Halo and finally had dinner at the Jameses, where we met the legendary Jonathan, who I personally think his reputation precedes him. Then after playing some murder trivia Jackbox games, we all went to bed. The following day, I was feeling pretty sick, so I didn't do much. I worked, though that was pretty death. And then I did a tiny bit of homework for going to work on this live email and then playing lots of Minecraft. The next day, also known as yesterday, was Thanksgiving, and unfortunately, I still felt pretty trash. However, I managed to buckle down and work on the formal chem report that I had been putting off for like 5 hours straight. And so I'm glad I did that, because it was death, but I got it done. I then had Thanksgiving dinner with the fam and started feeling a little bit better. Finally, I ran out the night by watching A Knight's Tale, which was actually pretty good. As for today, well, I woke up and worked on this live demo for way too long. In the middle, Ben and I sojourned to Caleb's house to browse Black Friday deals. I got a new pair of headphones because my ones from 2 years ago were falling apart, as well as a new phone. Okay, you know what? One last tangent. Contrary to Joe, Caleb, and everyone else's opinion, apples are lame for their price. I looked into it and found an off-brand Samsung with twice the memory, better processing power, better camera, better battery life, and overall just better stats for literally less than half the price of the iPhone equivalent. And I got it on sale, making it a third the price of an iPhone 11. So I'm just saying, if you have an iPhone, reconsider your brand loyalty, because you can get objectively better phones for actually so much cheaper. And that's basically it. All right, that's my last tirade. This Life Demo is officially concluded.